Kingston's Belle Park on the Cataraqui River has been many things over the years, including a wetland, a landfill, a golf course, and a location of Indigenous remains. The Belle Park project was set up to understand and explore the history of the park, and on June 26th at the Broom Factory, they're premiering a short video called Belle Park from the Air. This is based on 100 years of aerial photographs of Belle Park and Belle Island. Joining me in the studio are Belle Park project researchers, Dorit Naman and Laura Murray. Thank you both for joining me today.
Hi, thanks.
So, what is the Belle Park by Air project?
Well, this particular thing that we're going to be showing with people next week on the 26th is a very short film, very short but action-packed because it covers 100 years of history through a sequence of aerial photographs that started in 1924, so it is exactly 100 years. And this is a part of town a lot of people know. It used to be a dump. Then it was a golf course, and even when it was a golf course, people would often say, I'm going to go play golf down at the dump. And so people do remember that, who've lived here for a while. Then it's a park, and it's gone through all these different phases of its existence. And it's quite magical to see that.
Dorit, why is Belle Park such an important part of Kingston's history?
I think that it shows how cities used to think, which is not how we think now. So it was a wetland, and sometimes it was drier and sometimes it was wetter, but the city decided to put its garbage on there because it was easy to dump into it and slowly build the land. And no one really thought about the implications of putting garbage onto water, and that garbage would leachate into the river. And when that became an issue for the Ontario government, and they forbade open pit landfills in the early 70s. The city turned out into a golf course, which closed in 2017. There's still people who would like to see it be a golf course again, but the city passed in 2019 a master plan to turn it into a park with all kinds of amenities and more renaturalized areas. There's also a totem pole that greets us at the parking lot without any signage. The totem pole was carved at the Joyceville Penitentiary in 1973 and has a very interesting history. And the park, the peninsula of the landfill, leads to Belle Island, which was a meeting place for Indigenous people for millennia. So lots of interesting histories.
Really interesting about the totem pole as well. I didn't realize that had such a local connection. So what can we learn from the history of Belle Park?
Well, partly what Dorit said is about the whole idea that we should just throw our garbage into wetlands and that'll solve the problem. Of course, you know, we still haven't solved the problem about what we do with our garbage. So not just in Kingston, but more broadly, right? And so it's a very, cities all around the world are built on garbage, still having garbage problems. So that's, you know, one element of it is to reflect on the violence of that change, but also that this is only one example of something that's a much bigger problem now almost than it was in when they started dumping the garbage here.
I think that when I learned it was a landfill, I was very preoccupied when I was walking there with what's underneath my feet. But it's also a haven for birders because there are lots of trees. Some of them were planted as part of a remediation plan that the city was forced to after it was sued by a local woman named Janet Fletcher. And in the late 90s, and they planted all these rows and rows of poplars that host a lot of birds. So the same place can be polluted underground and a kind of a natural haven in the tops of the trees, and I find that fascinating. Tell
me a little bit more about the film itself, and this is a Queen's University project as well, so maybe you can touch on that, just how it evolved, and there's a larger scale to this project as well beyond the film.
Yeah, so I think that our project has primarily Queen's people on it. We're mostly humanities, artists, social scientists, but we also have some community members that are either volunteering or part of our core team. And I think that the genealogy of this particular video is that there were two visits to the map library at Queen's. Once of the Belle Island Caretaker Group, which Laura is part of, and that was in 2019. And looking at maps and aerials, And the second was more specifically when Francine Barish and I, Francine Barish is the geospatial librarian and a member of our team, when she and I started looking at the aerials more specifically, we also had a bunch of meetings with, a couple of meetings with different members from the community and from Queens, looking at aerials and just having conversations about what do you want to know. Here's this area is now land. This area, oh, look at the tannery, at the spill from the tannery. This is what it looked like in this moment in time. The shore has changed. So Francine and I started working on layering the still images from the aerials, one on top of another, and creating this kind of time lapse over the years from 1924 to today.
Nice. So much history there, isn't there?
There is, and every time, I mean, I watched it dozens, if not hundreds of times, and every time I look at it, I still see new stuff.
Wow. When is it premiering at the Broom Factory?
June 26th at 7:30 in the evening, and we're going to show the film first, and then some of us who are involved in its making and know the place will say a few things, but we really want to hear from people who are seeing this for the first time. Many of them may know the park already, or they may have interest in these environmental issues or other kinds of things, but because we are researchers, we love to make things for people, but we also want to see what people think of them, because we want to be doing things that catch people's imagination. So we're very curious. The most of the event, we'll show the film, we'll have people chat about it, and then we'll show it again. And we think that that'll be interesting too, because the first time it kind of flies by.
Nice.
So, and there's food. So people should come.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's also, it's not exactly a documentary. It provides a lot of information, but it really is a poetic film. It has a very beautiful soundtrack that kind of takes it to a different place. So we really hope people will come to experience it both as an art and as a documentary and as a piece of Kingston's history.
Nice. Laura Andre, thanks so much for coming in today to talk to us about this.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks.